In episode 163,
I'm non-binary no matter how I look. I always thought that was such an important thing about being non-binary because you could look at someone and just assume their gender very easily.
mm-hmm.
But I could look all kinds of different ways, and I'm still non-binary no matter what. Even if you're closeted and you're like still presenting like your assigned gender, I think that's such an important message. Other people might be able to relate to this, but I've come out to my parents like 5 times for the
Same.
same reasons. Like, I'm not sure what it is. Sometimes just people forget. I think superheroes are a really good way to talk about identity. I mean, you have like a mask that you have to wear that's a secret identity, but you have to keep secret to everyone else, maybe for the safety of you or the safety of others. Like, that almost sounds like, being trans, growing up being closeted, being trans.
Welcome to the Cross YAAS podcast, the podcast that says YAAS to cross-dressing, sexuality, and gender. Today's guest was really fun to talk to. She was very spunky and very high energy. In today's episode, Joy tells some coming out stories, talks about cartoons that are meaningful to her, and some of her passions involved with cartoons and drawing and art. And she also talks about so much more. She's quite a fast talker, but it's okay. You can just put it on 0.25 speed or, just listen to normal speed like I did. But she's super fun, and I was so happy to have her on here. This episode's a little bit long, but I didn't really want to break it up because it's not, to me, not long enough to break up, but it is what it is. Anyway, just like I said, this one's a little long, so hold on to your butts and please enjoy.
Yes. Cross YAAS podcast with Giselle Mirasol and Billy.
Welcome to the Cross YAAS podcast. Finally, after lots and lots of issues with computers and technology and cameras and microphones and websites and whatever, finally got Joy from I know Joy from the Cross YAAS Confidential Discord. I met you there, oh my gosh, like almost 2 years ago, I think. It's been a while. And finally am getting you on the podcast. So it's quite the joy. So anyway, Joy, if you'd like to introduce yourself, that'd be fantastic.
What a pun. That's such a good intro.
It's like I've done it a
Hi,
time or two, right?
Maybe before. Hi. I'm Joy. My pronouns are really any pronouns. We might get into that a little later. So, he, him, they, them, she, her, the basic ones. I'm non-binary, which means I exist somewhere in the space between man and woman, at least again for now. I think there's a lot of things that I'm still like working through and processing through when it comes to my gender identity, and a lot of it has been placed on hold a little bit because I'm 22, turning 23 in a few weeks, and I'm like literally so busy with school. It is insane. School is just like happening, and then like gender identity stuff is on the back burner right now. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot think about that. But yeah, and I think Billy's right. Like, I joined like the Discord, I think about 2 years ago. So
I think you were
what year is it now?
I think you were one of the first ones in there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because I started listening to the podcast like I think around like, so Giselle was like hosting it at the time. It was like episode like 20 or something like that. Like, she was like still doing like, the episode, like I think she had like an episode about wigs, another about like clothing, like where to get the clothing, and she's talking about like the girlfriend from hell and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
All the classic Cross YAAS stories. But yeah, I was like listening around that time, and when I heard that there was like a Discord server, I was like, oh shoot, I guess I'll join that. But yeah, that was like early in my figuring out my gender identity portion, which is when I started college. So it was like, I think around my second year at school. And I was just trying to think about stuff, and I was like, oh, I knew cross-dressing was like a word that I thought kind of described me for a while. And when I like So I just looked up cross dressing on Spotify, and that one was one of the first ones that came up. So yeah, but anyway, I'm rambling. So
No, it's
stop
fine.
me.
Ramble away. This is your episode. People don't want to listen to me. They want to hear your story and hear you. Um, so in those 2 years since you found the podcast and you found the Discord, and it seems like you've grown a lot with how you identify, maybe. And so would you like to tell me about that?
Yeah,
I know it's
I
kind
guess
of a
so.
broad. I know it's
Because
kind of a broad thing, but
I feel like it's also hard to talk about too without like the context of the last, I guess, 20 years before
well, then
that,
let's dive
because
into
it's
that.
like
Tell me about that.
okay,
Let's go deep.
yeah, sure. Because like I feel like as I feel like I started questioning my gender identity, but it wasn't until like, I realized that like, oh shoot, that's like kind of weird.
Hmm.
That,
Hmm.
I want these things, or like I want to look pretty, or I want to wear certain things.
Hmm.
When I was like really, really little, I like maybe like kindergarten, so it's like six years old or something, like 7 or 6 years old. My younger sister and we would, play a lot of games
Hmm.
together.
Hmm.
Lots of like running around our backyard and the creek, and jumping, dancing, all kinds of fun stuff like that. It's just like a good time. Like honestly, like I know a lot like I look back like really fondly on my childhood, but I had like honestly like an amazing time. Like it's awesome like growing up. And I grew up in Kansas, by the way, so Bible Belt, shout outs.
Shout out
But
Kansas.
shout out to Kansas. But yeah, I think when I was like 6 or 7, my sister and I had this like hilarious idea that it'd be like really funny if we switched clothes for like a day or something. Honestly, I don't think it ended up being that, but I think it was like maybe like an hour.
You're,
But
you're not
yeah,
you're
like
not you're not twins, are you?
we're not, but we're super
Okay.
close in age. Like
Okay.
we're
Okay.
like I think about like I think it's 14 months apart, 15 months apart. So yeah, we look
So you're
we look
pretty
pretty
close.
identical as
Okay.
children.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so I remember wearing a dress that my sister gave me, and it was like I just remember that had flower patterns on it. And I
Hmm.
also remember looking in the mirror and being like, oh my God, like, is that me? Like, wow, I look so pretty. Like, I distinctly remember that feeling. I was like 6. Like, that's crazy. So, but yeah, it was one of those things that kind of like stuck with me for a really long time. And I
Hmm.
was like, that was interesting. And I kind of wanted to recapture that a little bit. Um, but yeah, so like as I was growing up and stuff, I was that person who would sneak into people's, closets and take their stuff and try it on while they were out of the house, and then put
I
it back.
I
No one
think a
would know
lot of
anything.
I think a lot of us have been
No one would know
there.
anything. I think you're right. Again, Cross YAAS podcast, like I never like knew that was like a common thing, because I
Hmm.
realized that like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly what I was doing. And I couldn't even explain why either, but I just remember just being like wanting to capture that gender euphoria
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that feeling, and I can't really describe it very well, but it's like a lightness, it's like a butterflies. It's super interesting. I don't know. And honestly, and again, I'm going to say it probably a few times, but this when I was 13, 14, 15. So puberty, it does feel good.
Well, yeah,
So
yeah.
all these things. And then when I think I was about 16 or something like that, my sister discovered, like, I think it was like because she did ballet growing up, and I didn't do ballet, but it
Hmm.
was always something that I was kind of jealous about, because like she
Hmm.
could wear like makeup, and she could like be feminine, dance, all these kinds of things.
Hmm.
And she discovered like one of her, like, I think her leotards like in my room.
Uh-oh.
And I was like,
Uh-oh.
shit. So that wouldn't go very well either. Like she was kind of like, oh my God, like what does this mean? And I was just like straight up honest with her. And she was like, okay. And then she like immediately tells my parents, which
Oh
honestly, who
no.
wouldn't if you're a 15-year-old? But yeah, everything got sent into a whirlwind from there, because it was just kind of like my parents were a little like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this is happening. And
Mm-hmm.
they kind of like sat me down individually and like told me like this was wrong for different reasons. First reason was privacy, of like you're sneaking into someone else's closet and taking their stuff without permission. My sister even was like nice about it and said, you can like, look at my clothes anytime. And I'm like, that's not that's not it, that's not it. But anyway, so there was that, like the privacy issue. And then there was the other issue of like, okay, but you are a man, you are a boy, like you can't wear these things, you can't do
Mm-hmm.
these things. um
Mm-hmm.
I have a religious background, again, Bible Belt, ooh. But like I have a very strong Christian background, my parents and their family members and all that kind of stuff. I went to two Christian schools growing up, one Christian middle school and one Christian high school. So that was like ingrained in me of like, okay, this is wrong
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
of the things I've been taught. And I think too, with like, especially with the idea that like God created man and woman, nothing in between, and also
Mm-hmm.
some of the Levitical laws. I can get into some Bible history here, okay? But the Levitical laws of like man can't wear women's garment, women can't wear man's garment is
Mm-hmm.
something that is brought up so frequently and is hilarious to me because we ignore a lot of the other Levitical texts and laws.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I don't still eat bacon. And they
You
said
know,
God said not to do
don't be wearing no mixed
that.
fabrics or eating
Yeah,
shellfish.
mixed fabric. Thank you. Exactly. Yeah. So that was the thing that was brought up quite a bit. Like, this is why you can't do that, because God would say you're an abomination if you do these things. So I grew up thinking that this was a part of me that I should
Mm-hmm.
get rid of. That this, I mean, I couldn't even say it was a part of me. Like, it was an
Mm-hmm.
infestation. Like, it was something
Mm-hmm.
that needed to be cut out. So I would like constantly like be reading my Bible and like praying. It would just go away. I remember talking to my like pastors about it, and like I didn't know if it was like a gender thing or a sexuality thing because no one would explain these things to me, because no
Mm-hmm.
one talks about, like, the thing is about LGBTQ stuff is that either they are talking about it like with at least in Kansas for me, was homophobia of like, okay, yeah, you can't be gay. And like, I didn't know what trans was when I grew up, like in Kansas. Like, I didn't have a word to describe what I was experiencing. And so, years pass, go through basically the last of like middle school and high school, burying that kind of stuff away. It would sometimes come up again. Like in high school, I started doing theater. I'm a theater kid. Woo. Shout out to the theater kids. Um, and one of the cool things about
I hear
theater.
a lot about theater kids in PFLAG meetings. Just
Oh,
saying.
yep, that
Yeah.
makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so like theater was amazing because you can like really express yourself in ways
Mm-hmm.
that maybe you wouldn't be able to,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
otherwise. And again, this is a Christian high school, all right? But the cool thing about it was that the makeup artists who worked with us like did everyone's makeup. And I
Oh,
remember I was in the Wizard of Oz, amazing show, obviously Kansas.
of
Who could
course.
have guessed?
Of course.
Um, do you want to guess what role I played? I think I talked about this, but I can't remember if I talked to you about it before. Do you want to guess what role I played in the Wizard of Oz?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to guess. I don't know.
It's probably not obvious.
Okay. Shoot, I don't know. I'm trying to think of characters, and in my mind, and this is bad, but my mind keeps thinking of the Munchkins. I know it's probably not it.
No,
Are
it's
you in?
it.
Are
You're
you in
right.
the? Are you in
I
the
was the
guild?
mayor of Munchkinville. Yeah, I was
Oh,
the mayor of
okay.
Munchkinville.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
hoping you were in
I love how you
the
got
guild.
there.
I think of
Yeah.
the guild. You know, they have
Um.
their dance or whatever, their song.
Yeah, the Lollipop Guild.
Yeah, yeah, the
Honestly,
Lollipop Guild.
honestly,
Yeah.
and then the what's the Lullaby League. That was really fun for me because a lot of the Munchkins in that were like the little kids basically in the
Hmm.
school, and so I had to like basically be a parent to all of them um during rehearsals. And then the other one who had to also like help out was my sister, because my sister was Glinda,
Hmm.
the good witch.
Hmm.
So we shared the stage together, which was quite fun. But the thing with the mayor is that I got to wear some really fun makeup with that. Like I wore some, like, I think it was like green like eyeshadow, and
Oh,
like
fun.
I can't remember, it was eyeliner I had to wear too. My lip, I think they did my lips as well. Like I
Oh
remember
wow.
wearing
Oh
green
wow.
lipstick.
It's
So that was awesome.
like darn. I have to wear all this makeup. Oh darn. Oh,
Oh no, I'm so
it's
embarrassed.
such a chore.
um, Literally, the only thing that they added that I did wasn't that big of a fan was the mustache, where they had to draw like
Mm.
a little mustache.
Oh, I get it. I
um,
get it.
yeah, you know. But yeah, I had glitter and all kinds of stuff. It's the most fun I've had on stage. And the worst thing is that I only did theater on stage for 1 year. I'm a band kid too, and I was
Mm.
involved in the theater performances like since like I'm my freshman year of high school, but I was never brave enough to go on stage until my senior year of high school, and then I graduated.
Okay. What did you
So
play in band?
I play alto saxophone. I still play
Oh,
it too.
I did
Yeah, at my
too.
university.
I played the
No
sax.
way. You play
I
alto?
did.
Huh.
I did it in middle school for like 1 year.
Wow. No
But
wonder we vibe.
I really liked it. I just got out for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
really liked it. It was fun. It was really
It's
similar.
such a good
It was really
experience.
similar to playing the recorder. I don't know if
Mm.
you've ever noticed that. It's very similar as far as like the fingerings go. Fingerings. Giselle would make fun of that.
Yeah. Where is my I usually have my recorder like very handy. Oh shit, there
It's
it
very
is.
similar. A lot of times I would practice on the recorder over my sax just because it was a little less loud.
There she is.
Yeah, it was
I'm
very
not gonna
similar.
play it because I'm gonna
Oh,
blast everyone's ears.
you can play an outro tune. You can
Oh
play
my
us
gosh.
out.
Oh, don't forget that like I want to do the cross YAAS intro. Like I practiced that. I'm so ready for it.
Okay, we can do that at the end.
um yeah, okay. Don't
Or
remind
if
me.
you want to do it now, that's fine too.
Let me think. Let me
I mean, I don't
think.
want to put you on the spot.
I'm not ready. I'm not prepared.
Okay. We can do it
Yeah,
later.
I'll
We
do
can
it
do
at
it
the
later.
end. Yeah. So yeah, you gotta stay tuned. Um, yeah. Why was I talking about theater? Oh yeah, because I was like burying it forever and ever, and
Because you
then
got to
theater
wear
was like one of
makeup
like the
and
things.
express
Yeah,
yourself.
that let me wear makeup. Yep. So yeah, and I would keep like dressing honestly like in the like comfort of my room, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And I did like end up like, making some money through like job and stuff like that. And so I could end up buying my own stuff, but it
Mm-hmm.
took a really long time to get to that point. And I don't think I really did that until I went to college. Like again, like university is so cool because you can, especially if you're like really far away from home, which I am. I'm in Boston right now, which is like insanely far from Kansas. Did not realize that when I was applying to schools. But just like I get here and I'm like, wow, okay, this place is so different compared to Kansas. There's a lot more pride flags everywhere, a lot more people being open about like, their identities. And then I also realized that this might also just be like a chance for me to kind of explore that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
remember like going to like I think my second year again started listening to CrossFit podcast around that time. I went to this store that is no longer exists here in Boston, but is a costume store. And I remember like feeling okay about it because I was like, well, no one's gonna bat an eye if they think I'm buying a costume. So I got like, some glitter eyeshadow and like some random like skirt something, just like messing around with it back
Mm-hmm.
when I come back to the, my apartment. And I keep doing stuff like that too. So I ended up doing some thrift shopping here and there, found some more places. I would never really be comfortable enough doing it by myself because I ended up coming out to friends like in my second year as
Mm-hmm.
well. And I was like, I realized that I was like, wow, I've buried this for a really long time and it feels really good to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just really not super healthy, but like I think my family is very used to burying a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things like if you don't talk about it, like it doesn't exist, but
Mm-hmm.
we know
Mm-hmm.
that's not true. So yeah. But yeah, over the years, I've gotten a little bit braver here and there. Of course, there's the fun story of when I was on the Cross Yes
Oh yeah.
Discord server. And yeah, so with that context in mind, like my family knew that I was dealing with gender stuff, but they kind of thought I forgot about it for the longest time. And so when I went back home, I had to go back home in like 2020 for because the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
started and we
Mm-hmm.
all got kicked off campus. We had to do school from home, and I ended up doing
Oh,
school
dang.
from home for about a full year before coming back. But yeah, so I was like trying to figure out like outlets to continue to find ways to express myself, still doing stuff in the comfort of my own room. And the thing is with the Discord chats is that it was nice because a lot of them were very late in the
Oh
day.
yeah. Yeah. They were
They
really late.
start seriously late. Like I would be like, it's like 2 a.m. now in
Hmm.
Kansas, but
Hmm.
it's like you're moving on to 3 a.m. It's
Is
fine. I'm talking
I'm
really quietly.
no, so I'm really bad with like time zones and stuff. Is Kansas Central?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
It is Central Time.
I was on the same time zone as you at the time. I know I would jump on around like 9 or 10 p.m. and they would definitely go
Hmm.
on until like 2, 3 in the morning. Sometimes I stayed until 5, which is insane because we did this every day for like at least
Every day.
4 or 5 months.
Like you could always count on like someone was in the chat. Like you could
Hmm.
always go in there.
Hmm.
um yeah, that was like so special to me. Like it was just such a great like place to be able to like talk and vent and hear about like other people's like struggles and wins and
Hmm.
and be able to just like see people. And a lot of these folks like who were on the Discord chats then are like still like my friends. Like they still talk to me, they still send me messages and say
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
the work I'm doing and stuff. But yeah, so I was on a Discord chat like one night or something. I don't know. It was going on 2 a.m. I had put on like blue lipstick and like eyeliner and I don't know, mascara probably. I was just playing around with it again. I've snuck into CVS one time and was just like, I'm going to take this. And then I bought it real quick and left. So that was my stuff. I had it and I was like really late at night. I was just listening to people. And then I hear like a knock on my door and it's like really faint. So I'm not sure if it's really a knock. Like it might just be the house moving at night. I don't know. But it's really faint. And I'm like, oh, who is that? And then I turn off my camera, like I step away for a second.
Hmm.
And I like lean to the door. I'm like, hello. And my sister's like there and she's like, hey, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I like open the door like slightly. I no, that's not even what happened. I didn't even open the door. I was like, 1 second. I didn't show my face. She was like, okay. And she seemed like concerned, like in the tone of her
Hmm.
voice. She
Hmm.
went, I can hear her go back into her room. She's like across the hall from me. And then I go over to her room and I knock on her door because I realize that, okay, this probably is a good moment to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
already dressed up. Might as well. So I had the, like, I'm pretty sure I paced around my room for like 2.5 minutes before actually doing that. But I went over to her room, knocked on her door, and then I barely opened it and I was like, okay, don't freak out. And she was like, what the hell? What? I am wearing makeup. It is okay. It's really cool. All right. And then she's like, okay. And then I was like, hi. And she's like, okay. And I was like, neat. I'm going to go back. And she's like, okay. So I was on the Discord with some, transgender non-binary people. It's okay. All right. And I went back, and then the next day we talk about it. It seemed like nothing happened. By the way, we went back down like to breakfast or
Hmm.
whatever. My
Hmm.
sister coming down the stairs and like she seemed like nothing. She was unfazed. She continued talking about the rest of the day, and then I talked to her a little bit later, and then she was just like, "Hey, I want to talk about this." I'm like, "Yeah, cool." It's like, so how are you doing with this whole thing? And I remember we talked about it for like an hour, maybe 2 hours, and it
Hmm.
just kept like everything was coming out again. And I felt really good about it at the end. Honestly, my sister is probably the one who understands me the most in my immediate family, so it ended up becoming like a really good like allyship kind of thing.
That's good.
And
That's
she
good.
was just like, yeah, and she was inspiring me to like talk to the rest of the family about it, and
Hmm.
that's what ended up happening throughout. But you'll notice like in a lot of my stories is that I never really come out to people when I want to.
Hmm.
Like it's either discovered or like someone walks in or like, someone's prodding me. That happens so frequently too. And it's like, can I just come out when I'm ready? But it's like so frequent of like my family or my parents especially going like, so are you gay? Do I have to talk about this right now? So like yeah, so that happens like a lot. But it really is interesting, and I think that moment too was kind of an instance where I actually did have a little bit of agency of like I
Hmm.
didn't have to go back over to my sister, but I did anyway, and that was like
Hmm.
kind of one of the steps of like bravery of like actually coming out
It's probably a huge
to
moment
like
of
people.
like self acceptance too. Um, I remember that night because I was there and we were all like, we were all on the edge of our seats, like, what's gonna happen with Joy? Like, what's going on? And we were, we were worried and concerned. And when you came back, you were so excited and like full of life, and that was so amazing to see and hear. And I'm so happy that went well
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, it just was like it felt like levity, and that again like is such an experience of coming out and just like you know letting things out. Is that
Mhm.
ooh I bumped my mic? Is just feeling lighter because
Mhm.
you're not being weighed down by something that you're just keeping to yourself now.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just so incredibly important. Um, but yeah, that was one of the experiences. I don't know what else to talk about now.
Oh. So you
Let me
said,
think. Let me think.
yeah, yeah. So I'll ask. So when you came out to your friends in college, how did that go?
Went well. I will say the first person I came out to was one of my close friends that I met in one of my art classes. I don't know if I mentioned this. I'm an art major. I make art. I draw a lot of comics and make movies and stuff like that, and that's what I want to do when I graduate. Art majors, fun fact, a lot of them are really queer. A lot of them are in the
Really?
alphabet mafia and out and proud, which is
Really?
great. And I have a lot of friends too. Like, the school I go to is not an art school. It is like very STEM focused, very like, math, science,
Mhm.
engineering. So a lot of people who are out and proud here, are in majors like those where I think it's harder to just be out. My roommate is in economics and talked about like how difficult it was to like navigate like, a space as a non-binary individual. But as an art major, I feel like it's a lot easier to, come out to people or at least like, be accepted, I think, in
Mhm.
some of the industries that we go into. So yeah, but like, yeah, my closest friend happened to be Catholic and she also happened to be gay. And I was like, cool, all right, how do you work those worlds together?
Mm.
Was really curious about that for the longest time and kind of continue asking her questions about it. And I think one time like we were like talking in like the cafeteria. This is like maybe a few no, this is a semester before COVID happened. But yeah, we were talking in like a crowded cafeteria, okay?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
I was like, "Can I tell you something?" And she was like, "Sure." And I'm like, "I don't know if I'm cis. Like, I don't know if I'm a guy." And then I kind of just, everything else kind of came flooding out at that moment. And again, this is a crowded cafeteria. Like, there's other people around
Yeah,
here, and
yeah.
I was just like super nervous about. I kept being like, okay, like I don't want to say anything else. And then she was like, no, keep going. Like, I think this is good. And I'm like, okay, looks around. um, yeah, and that was just like, and she was just like, thank you for sharing. Like that's very brave of you. And I was
Mhm.
just like, okay. Thanks. And I was still really wrestling with Christianity at the time too, and I still am to
Mhm.
some extent. She introduced me to an organization on our campus that deals a lot with that is specifically for people who have an intersection of queerness and Christianity,
Mhm.
but also just queerness in any religion. Even though it started out that way. And I think it's really cool because like you can go there if you're still religious or you've experienced religious trauma or it's like something that you're working through, and it's just a place you can talk about it. And it just made me feel very seen that this is also something that other people have dealt with,
Mhm.
because I feel like it's hard for me to find in some of the queer spaces that I'm in of like people who like are still dealing with both of those worlds. A lot of people just like
They just
will leave if they've ever dealt with it, or if they haven't experienced it they'll be like, ha, religion sucks,
yeah, they just
like
cut it out. They just cut it out and
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, those silly Christians. I'm like, yeah, oh, I grew up with that. So it's just like, a lot of things that I'm still dealing with and processing.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, it was just really cool to meet someone who's maybe experienced like something kind of similar. So yeah, and then one by one, I'd come out to like more of my friends, and sometimes I'd come out to my friends, and then a few months later, they'd come out to me.
Oh,
Just
nice.
a normal thing that happens.
Nice.
Yeah. Pretty much all my I think I have three roommates. Two of them are non-binary. I feel like I was the first. I don't know. Maybe that's not
You're
true.
trend
Uh,
starter, trend starter over
trendsetter.
here.
Yeah. So that's kind of where that like came from, and then I ended up actually like fully coming out. Like I say fully coming out, but I feel like a big coming out happened last year.
Really?
I was feeling really brave on on my Instagram. And National Coming Out Day is October 11th.
Mhm.
And so I was
Mhm.
thinking, like, okay, maybe this is a point to come out. I have a comic that I put together that said, like, you know, I'm non-binary no matter how I look. I always thought that was such an important thing about being non-binary, because you could look at someone and just assume their gender very easily.
Mm-hmm.
But I could look all kinds of different ways, and I'm still non-binary no matter what. Even if you're closeted and you're like still presenting like your assigned gender, like I think that's such an important message. So I put that out there a year after drawing it. And it was really cool because I got like a ton of amazing, like, just people I didn't even like know really, but like some people who I followed me like in high school and I knew in high school who were just like, that is so cool. Like, you be you. I was like, whoa, okay. And I feel like too with the Instagram thing, if there was someone out there who knew me personally and didn't like what I was doing, I feel like they wouldn't reach out or they
Yeah.
didn't comment or something.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So it worked out really well, but then it also got a little overwhelming. And I can't remember who talked about this in like the last like few podcast episodes, but I feel like someone mentioned something about how like they came out and then immediately felt very light. They felt like, okay, it's off, it's gone, but now there's new problems I have to deal with.
That is totally
yeah.
the truth. Oh my gosh. Was that one that I did?
I feel like it is.
Jeez,
I just cannot remember who it was.
There's so many.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been doing so many lately. Was it Tommy? Maybe.
Might have been Tommy. It also might have been our resident philosopher.
Yeah, could be. I don't know. Well, if we figure it out, I'll put an edit. Maybe, probably not.
I'll shout him out. Shout out to the last 10 people who've been on this podcast.
For real.
That resonated with me.
Yeah. Thank y'all so much for talking with me and letting me put your story out there. Because just like with the Jasmine Chase episode, I'm really feeling the representation aspect that she's pushing for, and I really want to push that.
Absolutely.
Because representation matters so much, getting these stories out here, and if your story reaches one person, that's huge, I think.
Mm-hmm. So true. It's just like and like again, like this whole podcast, like I feel like it changed. I could probably say it changed my life. Like, I don't think I would be in the place I am now without listening to a lot of these amazing people. So, Billie, you're doing the work. Giselle, you're doing the work. It's so true. So
thank you.
Yeah, of course. But when I came out, it was like, there's other things I have to deal with now. And also, like, I became the resident, like, non-binary, but, like, assigned male at birth. Because I know a lot of non-binary folks who are also, like, who are assigned female at birth. Yeah. And I feel like there's less of me. Also less, Black non-binary individuals. So when that, like, occurred, the Northeastern, my school, was doing a little shout out Northeastern, go Huskies. They were doing a piece in their newspaper about non-binary individuals.
Oh, nice.
And someone reached out to me and was like, "Hey, yeah, you're non-binary. You want to be on there?" And I was like, "Sure, I'm out now." And I feel like if I did this again, I would be a little kinder to myself and try not to rush things so much. Because, like, I almost felt like because I was out now, I was like, I can do everything, but I maybe wasn't looking after like my own, psyche. And it was great. Like, I had a really fantastic interview, and I got to, dolled up and got to go into the studio, and they took awesome pictures of me. So fancy. I was just like, yeah, it was so fun. I was so scared though. I was wearing like a freaking jacket walking over there. And like, I wasn't wearing my heels either. Like, I put them in my bag and then put them on when I got there. So I was still like, a little like just scared of like how people would perceive me just on the street kind of thing. Which, ended up becoming more often than not wow, people don't actually care.
Oh, it's like what Giselle says. People don't care. Nobody cares.
All the time. Yep. Just like Giselle says. So that is like something constant that I deal with. I do have this perception of like, I'm walking down the street and I feel like everyone's looking at me for some reason. And usually that's actually not really the case, especially here on, my campus, my liberal haven of Boston.
Is that something that still happens that you still deal with?
A little bit, yeah. I think I maybe am a little bit more nervous when I'm walking around when I'm wearing things that are femme,
Hmm.
but not as frequently. And I also feel a lot more comfortable when I'm walking with other people that I
Mm.
know. Which yeah, so like, I guess a fun recent thing that's happening like literally tomorrow, so after this, is we have our first queer prom that's
Ooh,
happening
fun.
here on our campus. And I mean, it's happened in the past, but I wasn't around at that point. And if it did happen, I was not out, so I was not comfortable going to it. But yeah, so I'm really excited about it. And I get, I have my outfit planned out. I'm wearing like a green jumpsuit
Oh, fun.
that I
Fun.
got from a thrift store.
Please share
And
pictures because I wanna see that.
absolutely, I'll share it in the CrossYas Discord, which you can find at crossyas.com. What's it? crossyas.podcast.com? Yes.
crossyouspodcast.com. It's on the
That's
it's on the
CROSSS.
YAAS. Yeah. It's on the bottom right-hand side, and over there's also a link to buy myself or Giselle a cup of coffee or Ko-fi, or however you say it. Or if you want to join the Patreon, you can donate $3, $5, or $10 to the Patreon and possibly get some really fun bonus content. It's probably not rated R. Probably maybe rated worse. Maybe, I don't know. People like it.
Who says? Who's to know? Only way to find out. Join the Patreon.
Yeah, pay us money. Help support the podcast and host stuff. Um,
Yes.
that's cool about
uh,
the prom. The church that I started going to recently. It's Episcopalian or
yes.
Episcopal.
Yes. Yes.
They
Mm-hmm.
had an LGBTQ prom in June, so I missed out on that. But that's super cool, and I wish next time I definitely want to go. So please
Yeah.
let me know how that goes. I'm super interested.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's just like, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know what it's going to be like,
I mean,
but
it'll
a
be
lot of my friends are going to be there.
yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Your
So
friends will be
that'll
there.
be
It'll be fun. You have a cool. You said green jumpsuit.
hmm
Oh yeah, it'll
I
be
also got shoes. Oh my god! Another recent experience that happened. I went thrift shopping and tried on shoes in store for the first time.
wow.
Last month, I went with some friends, and I remember like being in the thrift store at there's like a 2-level thrift store. Okay, this is a big store. It's like a
Oh, wow.
consignment store. And like I was like, okay, I really want to like try these shoes on, but there's people around. And then I went over to my friend and I was like, hey, I'm gonna try on some heels. Can you spot me? And he was like, sure. And then I tried on the stilettos first because, of course, I go for the most complicated, difficult
Of
shoes.
course.
And I was like, okay, let's not do that. And then I got some heels. So I ended up getting some shoes that has like kind of a smaller heel. But yeah, super cute. And I was like, I'm so ready. And it just all again, like the feeling of euphoria, like walking around in heels in a public place is crazy. So yeah, just it's little steps. Like I really also am realizing that too is I can't just do everything in one day.
Hmm.
It's just like one day after another, try something new and see what happens. So
Yeah,
that's where I am right now.
I think that's like a total misconception is that you have to do everything all at once. Definitely, like
Mm,
take baby steps. Do a little bit here, a little bit there. Take your time. Do what's
yeah,
comfortable. I mean, get out of your comfort zone a little
exactly.
bit, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. You can't like break the shell without like
hmm
breaking the shell,
yeah,
which is can be uncomfortable. But also knowing that like you don't necessarily need to do it all at once
hmm
is super helpful. And I also see a lot in media of like you have to come out, because it's for everyone else, and it's like okay, just come out when you're ready,
hmm hmm
please. When you're most comfortable. If I had that privilege, I think that would have been really nice to have.
Do you think you would
So
have waited longer to come out?
I feel like I would have, just because I would have made high school a little less complicated, to
Hmm.
be honest. And again with that too, like I come out to other people might be able to relate to this, but I've come out to my parents like 5 times for the
Dang.
same reasons. Like I'm not sure what it is. Sometimes just people forget.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, okay. And sometimes every now and then I will like come out again, and then like my mom will be like, I knew this already, and I'm like, but I feel like you do. I just want to make sure. So yeah, I don't know if it would have been different otherwise or been more comfortable. I feel like it would have been nice to maybe not go to like a Christian school growing up.
Hmm.
But there might have been some things in there that maybe I wouldn't have if I didn't go.
Hmm.
Who's to say,
Yeah,
really?
I mean, you
Um,
can't dwell on the past and think about like, what if this was different, what if that was different, because you've already
yeah,
lived it, you've already experienced that's made you who you are today.
exactly. No, very fair. So yeah, that lots of different things have happened, little things here and there, that I feel like are just like awesome, and I feel like also like I felt more joy than I ever have really. Even if I'm still like a little worried about like the future and what that holds too, because I honestly feel very protected here on campus.
Hmm.
I know like I feel like every school has their issues when it comes to like good representation of like um, LGBTQ people, people of different races, ethnicities, stuff like that. But this school is nothing compared to what I grew up with. Like, it's crazy how like many different types of people I know here compared to how many people I knew at my tiny, tiny Christian school.
Hmm. Hmm.
So anything's better than that. But I do know that the real world outside graduation can be very different, especially depending on where you live. I know Boston, a lot of people say Boston's like this liberal haven of just like everyone loves everyone here. And it's like, no, 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 no. Boston's one of the most segregated cities in the United States, okay?
Hmm.
That's an issue. Also, some of the highest housing rates in the United States. It's just like one of the most expensive places to live in. So there's a lot of issues here that need to be solved still. And I know I'm gonna have to like end up dealing with that no matter what kind of city I move to.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you know,
Well, like
all kinds of.
for me, like the high cost of living and stuff, because I moved to California. I I can't
We
from
get that.
Texas, so I feel
Mhm.
you with the. I don't know if Texas really is considered the Bible Belt, but it's definitely south, kind of
Yeah.
southern ish, southwestern, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of its own like weird thing, but like I
Mhm.
consider the high price and all this stuff kind of a happy tax.
Interesting. so you like. So you're saying you definitely like it more in California than you do in
For
Texas?
sure, for sure. I feel like I
Yeah.
can be myself a lot more, and people are a lot more accepting of who I am and how I present myself. Do I still have my
Mhm.
issues of like going out and stuff? Of course I do. But just like you, I'm taking baby steps and getting out of my comfort zone and making those changes, and so it does help. Just to get those little things help.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I really, really want to move to California when I graduate.
Oh, fun.
So
Well, if you're ever around,
there's that.
look me up.
Yeah, absolutely. My parents are actually they met in San Francisco.
Oh, fun.
So I actually have some family in both San Francisco and LA. And then they moved to Kansas City because my dad had a job opportunity in
Hmm.
Kansas City, and I'm just kind of like, Dad, why did you do that? I want to go to California. So yeah, I'm also just such an example of like, oh God, like I'm queer, so I gotta move to the coast.
Yeah.
So that's probably not very helpful to the people in the Midwest. But, there's some things I still go back there for. And I think Kansas actually is, especially where I live, like closer to the city, is getting actually a lot better.
Mm.
We kept abortion as like a constitutional amendment on our constitution just in August, and by a pretty heavy margin too, which was really surprising for a Bible Belt state.
Yeah.
um, and we voted on it, which was awesome. A lot of other states didn't. They were just had like laws that were immediately
Yeah.
enacted.
Texas is one of
um,
those.
Texas
It's
is
like
one of
nope.
them. Yeah. So there's that, which is pretty cool about Kansas. And also just like I think my county especially is just getting a lot more blue,
Hmm.
but also just a lot more accepting, I think. And a lot of like immigrant families are moving in. A lot of new businesses are starting up and stuff like that. There still is its own little issues of like they're chopping down the forest.
Yeah.
The prairie is very important to ecology. So yeah, but I think it is actually getting better and a better place to grow up for people who may, be queer or,
Do you think that's because of the diversity there, or
I think so.
new coming of diversity?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And we really strive on like having like really good public schools too.
Hmm.
I didn't go to a public school; I went to private school. But we have like some pretty good like infrastructure when it comes to that. And then also like I love the city. Like again, Boston, fantastic. One of the best places to live in because you can just get around. You can walk anywhere, and you can take a train if it's too far. Public transportation is fantastic. Something I do miss about Kansas, it's the country. So
Hmm.
you get
Hmm.
this, it's very quiet sometimes. There's beautiful places to bike and just like drive around in. I hate driving, but I will sit in the passenger seat as someone drives me down a country road. It's just a very different aesthetic. They also have some very beautiful clouds in Kansas. I don't know if that's the same about Texas, but some
Uh,
gorgeous skies.
yeah, actually, that is
Mhm.
one of the things that I really miss about back home is, because I'm around LA, so it's like the sprawl of the city, just basically everywhere you go. And I
Yeah.
miss being able to just go out in the country, like driving out for 15 minutes and you're out in the country, middle of the sticks, and
Yeah.
it's just quiet and there's all kinds of clouds. Like here in LA, like clouds are kind of hard to come by sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice. It's really nice most of the time of the year. Like it gets a little hot in the summer and the winter's pretty mild. But I do definitely miss going out in the country for those like country drives. When I do now, it's
Yeah.
like
You guys get rain? Do you have rain
here
anymore?
in
Yeah.
California. Oh my gosh, when it rains, like it's the most. It's just like sprinkles, and
Yeah.
the whole state freaks out. Like, oh my gosh, we need new
Yeah.
tires, we need new windshield wipers, and my company will send out like a company wide email. Make sure you get new wipers and be
Mhm.
careful on the roads. And it's like it's just sprinkles. Like, come on,
It's just
come on.
sprinkles. It's like when it snows in Arizona. It's like
Yeah.
all the schools get shut down, and it's
Well,
like a.
yeah. That's what it was for my back home for me when it snowed or just ice over like an inch or something. The whole town would shut down.
Mhm. That's crazy. Yeah, we get snowstorms in Kansas.
So you probably get
We get
more two seasons, right?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah, but I don't know. I like the year-round nice weather. I think it gets too cold in
Hmm.
Boston.
Hmm.
I definitely enjoy the heat more than the cold. So, that's me.
Yeah, I like it here. And there's places you can go like during the summer when it's hot, or it's not too bad. You go to the beach or go up the mountains, or there's ways to escape. And you could like around
Absolutely.
LA, if you want to go see snow, go up to Big Bear. There's snow up there.
Exactly. Like California is just so like diverse, honestly, in
Hmm.
its like landscapes, and it just makes me so happy.
Hmm.
Like the types of places you can go. It seems like its own country, honestly.
Kind of is.
Which honestly seems like it is. Yeah, I
Kind
was
of.
just writing about this thing on my paper, so I'm writing about the animation industry, because we have to write about like our field and like what we're gonna bring to our field and stuff like that. And I was writing about something called the LA bubble. I don't know if you've heard about
No,
this,
no.
but it's this idea that like what happens in LA is like everything to people who live in LA, and they sometimes may not remember that there's the rest of the country.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a critique.
I totally understand. I totally get that because it is like that here. It's so like that here. Even me, like
Yeah.
I stuff back home, I don't. It's like or anything else, like I don't even really pay attention to anymore. The only reason I know anything about anything else going on is because of the people on the Discord.
That's very fair. Hey, that's a good place to get your news,
It's true.
honestly. That was, I guess, the other thing that I've noticed is like actually a logistical thing is that like by the time people wake up in California, a lot of stuff has already happened
Hmm.
in the rest of the country because of time zones. So it's whatever,
Oh, so
but
many people are
sounds
active
pretty
at
fun.
4 a.m. for me, and I'm like, stop chatting. I'm trying to sleep.
Just a few more hours, please. Yeah, yeah. But I don't know. We'll see if I end up in California. It's just a matter of like what I decide to do after school because
Mhm.
I'm still like mixing around whether or not I want to do grad school or whether or not I want to do an internship immediately. I have had so many, I say so many, I've had a few internships
Mhm.
in my field, but they've all been in academia. So they've all just been like me working at a university doing video stuff or me working at another university making an animation for something. And it's like, I would really like to get some entertainment industry experience,
For
please.
sure.
And I know California is like, you know, the haven for that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it might end up being there, might end up being New York. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well,
I have a few more months to figure that out.
well, if you ever come this way, and let me know, and we'll go out and see the town or whatever.
Yeah,
I'll
sure, absolutely.
tell Giselle she's got to get out of her cave.
For sure, for sure.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Trying to think what else I haven't talked about yet. Can I get some water real quick?
Yeah, go ahead and get some water. I'll do a promotion for the.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, you
I'm just gonna hear it
go,
in the
and I'll
background.
do a commercial, and I'm not gonna edit this out. Um, so if you want to support the Cross YAAS podcast and help me and Giselle pay for the website and hosting for the podcast, and maybe the time that's involved in this, because it does take time to record episodes and edit episodes and all this other fun stuff, go to the Cross YAAS podcast website. It's just CROSSYAASPODCAST.com. And you can find the Patreon links in the bottom right hand corner. And there's also like Coffee, Ko-Fi, whatever you call it. I think it's Coffee. Giselle says Ko-Fi. Or if you would like to chat with me, Joy, or many of the other Cross YAAS listeners and guests, you can find a link to join the Cross YAAS Confidential Discord server. I'm getting pretty good about that, I think. I'm doing it so much now. Anyway, Joy, back to the podcast.
It was beautiful. It was so good.
Thank you.
You've been rehearsing.
Yeah, I've done it a few times. I sneak it in when the guest's being real quiet or like thinking about something or have to get up to go to get a drink or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
In my mind, it's
Sometimes.
better than me just like having to edit it in. It's like I'd rather just like say it live. Is that lazy? Maybe it's lazy.
No, what are you talking about? That's using your resources. That's it's doing it on the spot.
I'm just I like to do stuff on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why prepare? Why prepare for stuff? Just like just do it.
Thank you. I'm trying to get to a point where I can do that.
You can do it. You can do it. So you go ahead. You had something you want to say.
Oh no, I was just saying I did a presentation like a couple days ago in a class and I just did not have enough time to prepare any notes for it. I just made presentation slides and I remember getting up there just being like, "Oh my gosh, this is just going to be awful to listen to. This is just going to be like me saying this, oh, how about this over here?" You probably noticed like throughout this podcast that I speak very quickly too. I think it's just like it's not even that I'm nervous. It's just like I think I have like a lot of exposure to like YouTube videos and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that as I've grown up, and they speak very fast and stuff like that. So I end up like having a very rapid like words per minute,
So,
and lots of people have told me to slow down. So please tell me to slow down if I'm going too fast, Billy.
well, so it's funny because it reminds me of the Sarah episode where I was joking that we're gonna have to play her episode in like 0.5 speed so everyone can understand her. Um,
Yeah,
no, you talk fast.
very
That's fine.
fair.
I understand you, and I can follow. Sometimes it's hard to sneak in a word or question, but that's cool. You have a lot to say. This is your episode. This is your platform. Um,
Okay.
so you do. I'm gonna ask you about like your animation stuff. So you like doing animation. How did you get into that?
Good question. I've been drawing ever since I can remember. Both my sister and I actually drew a lot when we were kids as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I like distinctly remember like, kindergarten, like after this kindergarten after school program that we always had to do. My mom had to pick us up late. Where I would just get like every washable marker I could find in like in the room and get a big piece of paper and just draw all over it. And it would not make any sense. Like it would be like, is that a dog? Is that like a is that a person? Is that fire coming out of his hands? It's very interesting. But I really like cartoons and like reading stories and watching stories growing up too. And then I at one point or another I realized that people actually make it. Like it didn't come from just like out of nowhere. Like someone put like a detail in there, someone put like a character in there, someone put a score in there, and someone wrote every single line of dialogue. And it just fascinated me with just the fact that like a bunch of people could come together and make something. And I wanted to do something like that too. So I actually did have like a bit of like a weaving track thing of like what career I wanted to do through middle school and high school.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is due because I really liked watching science shows growing up. Like I really loved my this is gonna show my age, but this is like as in I'm not old,
You're
but
like one of the youngest
I
people on the Discord.
I know. So it's gonna be like, wait, that show's not old.
Yeah.
The super old show, Bill Nye the Science
Oh,
Guy, the
that is
Magic School
those are
Bus.
old because I remember those when I was a kid.
Oh, okay, cool, cool,
So
cool.
that's me showing my age.
Yeah, so your age.
I'm only
Yeah.
19.
But mine is older. It's okay. Yeah, like lots of PBS growing up too. I didn't really watch a lot like the main
Mm-hmm.
animation networks, like your Nickelodeons, Cartoon Networks, your Disney channels.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time on PBS Kids, so I watched a lot of Arthur, Word Girl, Cyber Chase, Maya Miguel, if anyone knows those shows. But just a lot of like edutainment shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I think I liked the shows not because I was really interested in science and technology, but more because I was interested in how they use storytelling to teach, like how they use storytelling to like to like get information out there, make it more interesting or engaging for younger viewers and for any viewer. So I kind of like focused on edutainment a lot and like making comics that teach people things. And in college, I realized that like comics is actually like a really cool, viable thing that you can do, especially in the independent scene. And so I ended up making like several comics during I guess like 2020, so when the resurgence of like Black Lives Matter came back and stuff like that, about like Black mental health and like how we deal with generational trauma and generational healing. These are things I've like been taught in some of my classes, and I was trying to like apply it to like my own life and my own upbringing. And then I do more fun things too. Like I just finished a fun superhero comic called Superdog and the Pet Crew. Go check it out. Hashtag what is it? Hashtag Pet Crew. That's what it is. But yeah, it's just really fun. And I also just really like focus on making sure that there's just really strong representation in my content, whether or not it's in front of the screen or behind the screen. So one thing that was cool about the superhero project that I did, Superdog, is that the entire cast is Black and brown people in my community in Kansas City who wanted to try voice acting. And I was like, let's do it. And then this new comic that I'm working on for my final project, which we'll see how it goes, but it's about my coming out process. It's about like being non-binary. It's about being growing up in a religious background and like how we deal with that. But it's also a superhero story because I think superheroes are a really good way to talk about identity. I mean, you have like a mask that you have to wear that's a secret identity, but you have to keep secret to everyone else, maybe for the safety of you or the safety of others. Like that almost sounds like, being trans, growing up being closeted, being trans. So yeah, that's like the next thing that I'm working on. But it's a lot of just like, I have a lot of ideas for stories and I write all of them down, and sometimes something happens with them. It might become a comic one day or a movie one day. We'll see. But yeah, I think it's just like, I have so many, my brain is like filled with bees. That's what they say, where it's like zzz, all the time, and it's just like, oh my god, that's like really fun. That's a cool
Yeah,
idea,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
write that down.
Well,
And
I
then I
love that. I
basically
love that.
built a career out of it.
I
Yeah.
love that idea. Your like coming out story comic. That's super cool. I cannot
Thank
wait.
you.
I
Yeah.
cannot wait to see it and read it. And oh my gosh, I can't wait. Speaking,
Yeah, it's really exciting.
yeah. So speaking of that, I know you share like you a lot of times you'll share like cartoon clips of like LGBT things. May not necessarily be specifically LGBT, but they very similar relate. Are there any that like stick out in your mind that you think about?
Oh, like that I share a lot?
Yeah, yeah. Like I think you've shared like maybe some Steven Universe before, or
Yes, thank you. Good point. I was thinking like specific like Instagram accounts. Like, okay, I can find that.
oh, I'm thinking
Yeah,
like big cartoons that are on like TV.
yeah, for sure. So Steven Universe, I was talking about this with someone earlier. That's really funny. Steven Universe changed my life as well. Is like a mix of like different media content on Cartoon Network specifically. I think Cartoon Network is one of the best in the industry when it comes to representation. They're having
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of issues right now with like HBO Max and like, you know, Warner Brothers Discovery and stuff like that, if you know anything about that. But Cartoon Network has been incredible. And Steven Universe is created by Rebecca Sugar, who is a non binary creator. And it is fantastic. It's one of my favorite shows because I think it almost is less about gender identity and more about just how important it is to be to have emotions. You know, like
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be able to cry, to be able to like to be able to talk about things and be able to like deal with actual real life trauma, things that happen, but it's also like super cute at the same time. Steven Universe is like one of my favorite shows, and you can find that on HBO Max. um yeah, and there's also, you know, one episode that I point to specifically is an episode called Sadie's Song. I think it's
Mm.
in the first or second season. It's probably the first season because it feels more like a filler episode. So this isn't really any big spoilers or anything like that. But basically, Steven Universe, he's the main character, is trying to help his friend out to do a talent show. And you know, his friend, her name's Sadie, she really doesn't want to do this talent show. Like, it's just not her thing. But her mom really wants her to. And by the end of the episode, she ends up like coming to like terms with this fact that she does not want to do this. She does not want to do the show. But someone still
Mm.
needs to go on. Someone still needs to do the pop song that she was singing. And so Steven is like, I'll do it. And it's like, okay, where's this going? And then Steven puts on a Sadie's outfit, which is
Uh
like, it was like glitter and very pop inspired, like a crop top, something like that, and this makeup, amazing makeup, and he goes on stage and sings the song instead of Sadie, and Sadie is talking to her mom instead in the back as he's singing it. And my favorite thing about it is it's not played for comedy. Like, one of the things that I feel like happens a lot with cross-dressing representation, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and just like, you know, gender non-conforming representation is
Mm-hmm.
often played as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
like, haha, we're supposed to laugh at that because that guy is wearing a dress, kind of thing. But in this, it's like Steven's actually slaying and doing amazing, and everyone loves him. And it made me realize, like, oh shit, like this is something I could do too. So that was like a big turning point for me. And you know, Steven is written as a gender non-conforming character. They talk about the making of the show and how all his powers are pink, despite the fact that he identifies as a cis guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, something like we're breaking down boundaries of what people think that this should be. And her mom, you know, Steven like gets all of his powers from his mom,
Mm-hmm.
Rose Quartz, who uses everything like very flowery, very like a feminine style kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he's like, you know, embracing these powers, and I think that's just so cool. There's lots of other great things about the show, like one of the first like gay kisses on daytime TV. Almost got them in trouble, almost got cut out of the show entirely, and they fought for it anyway. one of the first non-binary characters on the show. Apparently, all the gems, the gems are like the alien creatures, are actually just not non-binary individuals as well. They don't really have like a gender in their like space world, and it's like people get mad at this too, and it's like, hello,
Like they're
where on
aliens,
earth
and it's
have
a
you been?
cartoon. Like, come on.
Crazy, exactly.
Oh
Oh
my
wow, you're getting
gosh.
so mad about a cartoon. Oh my god. But yeah, it's like it's a fantastic show. I really like it. But there's lots of other shows on Cartoon Network that are also doing a great job. Like Craig of the Creek is doing some fantastic stuff. Adventure Time
Oh, I love
historically
it.
has done amazing things. And oh gosh, I know there's another one that I really love on Cartoon Network. It'll come to me and I'll just like reveal it in the middle of a sentence that's nothing to do with
Oh,
it.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I know
But
there's one you
yeah,
always
no, it's
post, and
fantastic.
I can't think of what it is.
Not Cartoon Network, but The Owl House has been amazing on Disney Channel. Highly recommend that as well. Fantasy elements, very gay, fantastic for young people and for families. I really recommend like families watch these shows together, because I feel like we all need more representation. And they're making studios mad too, which is super fun. I love it
Good.
anytime a creator can like make something and make a studio mad. Like, why are you putting this on screen? It's just like so happy, makes me so happy.
Rock
Like
the
Pixar got
boat.
in trouble for that earlier. Say that again.
Rock the boat. That's how change
Rock
happens.
the boat, exactly. I love that. I love that. Turning Red got in trouble earlier this year for like silly things,
Mm-hmm.
as in like, okay, like we're gonna get mad because you're talking about periods in a kids movie. Okay, I guess we don't have periods then.
Yeah, like, that's not a
Stuff
real
like
thing.
that. Oh no, my son can't know about periods. Why?
Yeah.
I would think it would be important.
One would think and hope. I would
Mm-hmm.
assume. I would hope.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just very happy that a lot of like it seems like a lot of young creators are like just going into some of these networks and making some really cool stuff. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
I honestly I cannot wait to see what you do. I really see big things for you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I mean, no pressure, or anything, but
No.
just from what I've seen from you, it's all really impressive, and I think it's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I really resonate with what you say about representation because it's just like it's everything. It really is
It
in
matters.
media,
It
especially for
helps.
younger viewers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, I think it's so awesome with your coming out story comic. That's so cool. And even just sharing your story
Yeah.
here, like, just oh my gosh, it's like this excites me. This brings me a lot of joy. Um,
Here you go again, Billy, with the puns.
no, but I always say that. I was trying to not say it because but it really does. It brings me a lot of joy, and now I'm bringing everyone
That's
else a lot
great.
of joy.
Uh,
Oh dang.
yeah, I'm trying to think what else to talk about. Do you have any other like questions for me?
I probably should, but I never prepare questions. I just like to listen and ask as I go along.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Let's see. So earlier you mentioned you wanted to sing the intro. Would you like
I
to sing the
did.
intro?
Do you want that now?
Yeah, let's do it now.
Hold on. Yeah, I guess I could talk about that too. So I did mention I was a theater kid.
Yeah.
I was highly involved in church growing up too. I don't know
Yeah.
if that was obvious, but I was in choir, and it was one of the coolest things to be a part of, honestly. You also might know this too, but I have like a pretty high voice compared to like most guys considerably. And
I am like so jealous of your voice.
I remember when I got on the Discord for the first time, I like spoke and they were like, "Oh my god, like who is this cis woman they let on this spot? They let in this Discord." And it's so funny I say that too because I used to be so self-conscious about my voice and it being very high and that it never dropped. Really. And yeah, so I used to be self-conscious about that, but I also like, would be on the phone or something and they'd be like, yeah, ma'am, and I'm like, I'm not mad at that for some reason. I feel like I should be, but I'm not. That was a
Well,
sign.
I'm
So
officially jelly, so
yeah, it's interesting to deal with, but yeah, I was an alto in like, my choir, so I got to sing with all the ladies, which was fun. um
fun.
yeah, let me think about how the show goes. I'm gonna pretend to be like the podcast host or something.
Yeah, I want to hear your intro. Like just like free flow, let it go. Let's see what happens. That's what I do. I just let it go.
On You just let it go.
Yeah.
Just let it flow. On this episode of the Cross Yes podcast. And then they do all the little clips. Okay, cool. And it's like you're gonna hear more about Billie and what she has to say on this full episode. So, are you ready? Yes.
Yes.
Cross Yes podcast, which is Elmira Saul and Billie.
I love it. I
Yes.
love it. Great. I need you to record the M Billy part to add on to get rid of my terrible sung one.
He was like, and Billie. That's honestly like what you do.
Oh my gosh, you don't know how many times I guess I'm not a singer. I don't pretend to be a singer. I listened to that recording of Kirsten doing it, and I sang it with her like at least 20 times, at least 20 takes. And the one that I use, it's I still don't really like it. But I was like, I've already done this
Hey, if you
20.
want me to record it, I can record it real quick,
Oh,
and
I'd love it.
I'll send it over to you.
Oh, yes,
That'd be
please.
hilarious.
Yes, please.
My little mark.
Yes, please. I love that. That's awesome. You did such a great job.
Yeah, I've listened to this podcast for too long. I'm not gonna pretend to diagnose anything. I'm just here to tell my story.
I've been so I've been trying to change the podcast format to kind of be more like what Giselle does, because before when I first released them, I was just, welcome to the cross, or hey, it's Billy, or whatever, and just jump into
Yeah,
it.
first draft.
And I
kind of like that.
I still kind of like that because it's just easier to like just put
Mhm.
out, very much less editing. But with because I've been doing the video and the audio stuff, even if I don't use people's video, I can still just use my video. I'm totally comfortable using my video.
Yeah.
I've been recording the intros and outros in video, and then I just use the audio for the audio podcast, and then use a video for that. So it's kind of cool.
Right.
That way I don't have to like do it multiple times.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It sounds like you've like really like figured this out. Like
I know.
It sounds like you've like became a professional in like a few weeks. I don't know how that's possible.
I don't know. I'm just good. I don't know.
I'm just a podcaster. I figured it out.
It only took me a whole like half a year of like struggling and barely putting anything out.
No way it's that long.
Yeah, I mean,
I
took over in January, and I did Jess's interview in February, and I released that one pretty quick. And then I feel bad because I did one with Christina from the server. I haven't released that one yet. Sorry, Christina. I want to. I'll get with you and see if you're still okay with me posting it. And then I did one with Ty. It was just us talking, but I don't know how relevant it is anymore because it was just kind of at the time chat. I don't know. And I did one with I did a bunch that I just didn't put out. And then I did, who was it? It was shoot. They went by Diane on a podcast when they first did their episode. Mia. It was Mia.
I remember.
Mia.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually gonna redo Mia soon. I'm gonna get her another update. So I think that'll be
cool.
Great. I love Mia. I met her in person. She's super cool. And
I was so jealous when y'all got to get together in person.
one day for we'll have a big crosshouse get together. And then I had like my mental breakdown episode that I just released.
I remember that one.
That one was really, really hard. It was a really hard day. Um,
Yeah.
and then I did Emma's episode, and that was like 3 episodes in a like a half a year time span. And it wasn't really until August where I started like pushing these out a bit more. But since August, I feel like I've gotten a bit better. I've gotten a lot of good feedback.
Yeah, and again, like at a rate, like a really quick rate.
Yeah,
I always feel like there's something I need to listen to, which is super cool.
that's good.
But
Do you have
yeah,
any Do you have any
it's really
feedback for
exciting.
me, or anything you'd like to see or hear, or
Let me
you
think.
can be brutal. You can be brutally honest. Tell me, be like,
Honestly,
Billy,
this podcast sucks.
you've been really messing this up, Billy. You're not asking the right
No,
question.
I've
No.
just
You're not
I've just
preparing at
enjoyed
all. You're just
listening to
jumping
it
in.
because no, that again. I mentioned this on the Discord chats before, but I remember like how distinct Billy's style was of just jumping into things compared to Giselle's, which was like more polished. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, I think you're missing out on that first draft. Like we always say, this is what we say in art, some of our art classes is speak in first draft.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, don't speak like you just revised it or you just like or performing it. Like just speak like how you normally would speak.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like the style. And I find that very cool about honestly the whole podcast. It just feels like I'm listening to like two people talking, like in a
Yeah,
living room. They're just
I mean,
having
that,
coffee.
that's kind of how I want it to be, or kind of how I like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to talk with people, and more of just me listening, I think, and asking a question here and
Yeah.
there, and like I don't want people to feel pressured or anything. I prefer like someone being open with me, and you know I would prefer them to do most of the talking, because it's it's like for you, it's like your episode. This is your story. This is your time to be represented. It's like I've already had my episode.
Absolutely.
It's
There's certainly like a range too of just like I'm jumping on the podcast to share my story and I might not be used to sharing my story yet.
hmm
So it's just a little like so it's like, a little more nerve-wracking
hmm
for some folks.
and I totally get that. I totally
And
get it.
yeah. It's certainly like a journey of like, making that happen. But honestly, I feel like you're doing like a really good job. And it's like again, making sure this podcast is like still moving and like we're still getting episodes. It's just super, super exciting.
Thank you.
I remember just there was such a drought at one point. I was just like, when's it coming back? I'd love to hear
Oh,
more. My walks are so much better with it.
I'm trying. I'm trying to release things on a fairly regular schedule. I think
Yeah.
having some consistency is pretty nice. But thank you. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, and like, take care of yourself too. I think that's also the important part. I think that like podcasting is not, it's not your like main job. So just have fun with it. I think is something very important.
Yeah.
So as long as you're having a good time, which it sounds like you are with those DDTs. Oh my god.
One of these days we'll get you on a DDT.
Oh no.
Do you have any?
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Do you have any suggestions for a debate, discussion, or trans stuff you'd like to hear us talk about?
Interesting. I Oh, that's a good question. The debates are funny. At one point, I remember, I think it was like the second DDT you guys did. There wasn't a DDT. There wasn't a discussion, or
Uh,
no, there wasn't a debate. Y'all didn't know what debate to do, so you were like going back and forth between like, oh my god, like should we do this one? They're like, no, that's stupid. Let's not do that. And then it ended up being like really, really short because we're like, okay, we're moving on to the discussion, and I found that really funny. So,
that's like that was like
sometimes it's just
it's the format. We don't even have good ideas for it. We're just like, let's just do it. Let's just record it.
yeah. Again, it's just like I feel like it doesn't necessarily need to be polished to be fun and to listen to, which I think is, again speaks to that being in first draft kind of thing. I will say I really like I think it was a debate or it might have been a discussion, I can't remember, but it was about like wrestling.
Oh yeah, the first one.
Which is something. Yeah, the first one. I didn't know anything about wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
so I was just walking into like I loved how like you explained like everything,
Oh.
and it was like, wow, this world sounds wild.
Oh, it is.
So yeah, that was fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, I would definitely like Team
And Del Taco.
Domino's.
That was
Oh
funny.
yeah. So are you Team Del
Yeah.
Taco or Team Taco Bell?
I said Team Mexico. I
Oh,
said this in
okay.
the Discord. Neither.
So yeah, none.
uh,
Well, Taco Bell gets my
did you
name right on the
y'all?
receipt, so I'll say Team Taco Bell.
Oh, that's kind of fair. That's kind
To
of
be
fair.
fair though, it's cheating because
Um,
I order on the app and I type my name in.
that's that's a good point. Oh my gosh, that's also one of my like fun sources of gender euphoria is just seeing my name Joy on a Chipotle burrito.
Mm.
Whoa. I remember doing that for the first time and I was just like, I'm so scared what are they gonna say, and it's like, it doesn't freaking matter, dude. You know.
Yeah,
Oh, that's amazing.
that's funny. So I go to PFLAG meetings. I meet like once a month, and
Oh yeah.
it used to stand for Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. I think something like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
still for like parents and family, friends, or whatever of LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Um, but I go there, and they were talking about having that like euphoria of using your preferred name or your name
Mm-hmm.
on like Starbucks or whatever. So that's cool you
Yeah.
mentioned that. I
Yeah,
really
for sure.
recommend PFLAG for anybody out there struggling with family and their gender expression or sexuality or whatever. It's such a great organization. I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah, I actually don't think I mentioned this. I don't know if this is true anymore. I actually need to get an update on this. But my mom used to be involved in
Oh,
PFLAG. Like
cool.
after I, not really after I immediately came out, but like in my, when I was figuring out gender identity recently,
Mm-hmm.
she was like actually like actively doing research, and she would often like call me and be like, I was just watching this show and like you might know about it, and I'd be like, what is it? And they're like, it's a show, it's a documentary I found on like HBO Max about trans people. And I'm like, oh, okay, tell me more. So I remember like I don't know if she does that anymore, but she was very like active like in learning more about what it means to be trans and what it means to be non-binary. And she was involved in PFLAG for a little bit. Might still be. I should actually ask
That's
her.
awesome. I started going there when my ex-wife came out to me, and it's
Mhm.
such a great place for people to learn and just ask. It's like a safe place for people to ask questions that they might be too scared to ask. In a normal situation or um, yeah, I love it. It's such a great place. So to
Yeah,
hear
for
you're
sure.
going there that's so great. I'm so happy for you and her. It's so great.
Yeah. Can I go on a tangent real
Yes,
quick? I
please.
can't believe I missed this
Yes, please.
entirely. So I talked about my parents a little bit. My parents come from very different
Hmm.
backgrounds. Where my dad is, he's not a pastor's kid, but he was all like he was pastor's like grandkid. So there's lots of like religion in his background specifically. And my mom doesn't have a lot of that in her background, but although she does identify as Christian.
Hmm.
And she also had a brother, my uncle, who passed away when I was really little,
Hmm.
and he was gay, and he passed away due to AIDS complications. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I think like my family was very like concerned at the beginning. Was like, oh my gosh, does this mean that I'm gay kind of thing? Which, by the way, still don't have an answer for. And I don't think I need one anytime soon. Everyone wants me to get married. Anyway, so I say that because my sister and I have gone, talk about queer stuff quite a bit.
Hmm.
My sister's bi, although she might not admit that. And she, we talk about queer stuff quite a bit. And my sister was one of the first people like I came out to and felt like could be like a real ally to
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
And we were hanging out at my grandma's house at one point, and we were talking about something very I would say what is it, not conflicting, controversial, thank you,
Okay. Yeah.
controversial with pride, and it's whether or not kink should be allowed at pride.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people talking about that, about like, oh my gosh, it's inappropriate, get it out of here, but also how like kink is also like such a huge part of like LGBTQ history
Hmm.
at the same
Hmm.
time, so it should be allowed. So we were talking about that in our grandma's backyard. My grandma is Christian, walks in to our conversation, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And we're like, pride? We weren't sure because we're just like, "Oh my God, are we going to get a talking to? We're not sure." And then she was like, "Oh, yes, it's Pride. Oh, yes, it was Pride Month because this is July." She was
Mm-hmm.
like, "It was Pride
Mm-hmm.
Month." She's like, "Oh, wow. Like, your mom used to go to Pride parades all the time with
Oh.
like her brother, and we used to take them." And I was like, "What? What is
Oh,
this?
that's nice. That's
What is
cool.
this background?" And then I asked my mom about it, and she's like, "Yeah, we did that a lot. We're in San Francisco. Like that's like where a lot of the big pride parades were
Mm-hmm.
happening."
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like, wow, that is really interesting. And I kept asking like more about my uncle too, because I really don't know that much about him.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of like, again, lots of people burying things that they don't really want to talk
Mm-hmm.
about. And, it kind of makes sense. It's a little traumatic at the same time. So I remember when I was actually writing the story there, my coming out story thing, while I was staying at my grandma's house, and I just remember like hearing more about him there, and just hearing more about like um, the fact that we actually like connected to this at the same time. And I remember too that like we had like a family reunion at one point, and I remember meeting someone and like their partner, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like there's lesbians in our family
Oh,
and no one talks about them." That's crazy. So like I was like, I have someone else in my corner kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So it's a matter of discovery a lot of the time, and I feel like I'm still learning a lot more about my history, and just like what it's like to have that intersection of being Black too, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just I'm a seventh generation African American. Like my family comes from like enslaved people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like happiness and joy that comes from religion for our family,
Mm-hmm.
because of that background. And it's a lot to process and think about sometimes, but I also feel like it's really important to remember intersectionality in that, and those different places that we come from. So it's been really cool hearing like some of the stories here on this podcast from other Black gender different peoples.
For sure.
Love Barb's story for sure.
Jasmine was great. I love Jasmine. Or Barb
Jasmine,
on
oh
the
my
on Instagram.
god.
She's I think the real bodybuilder Barb.
Yeah, the real bodybuilder Barb.
But on that podcast, Jasmine Chase. I love her. She's great.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, it really is such like a journey, and like I know it's not all easy at the same time too, but I try to have fun with it at the same time.
That's great. That's great. That's cool that
Mhm.
you found those connections in your family.
Yeah. It makes a lot more sense why my mom was like really like was like, I remember like saying like, "I don't know if I'm gay or straight." And she was like, "Honey, it's okay if you're gay. They have stuff for that."
Oh.
Like, there's ways to protect yourself, right? And I'm like, "Oh, Mom, why did you never tell me this?" So yes, it's still a hot topic. It's still very hard to talk about in my family times. Like I've not been to Thanksgiving dinner in like several years.
Oh.
Okay. So, and I've heard stories about some of the things that are talked about during Thanksgiving dinners,
Is that a
that
fear
I would
of
rather avoid.
is that a fear of yours? Of like going to Thanksgiving and
Um,
seeing everybody?
yeah, going home for the holidays in general can just be very like, annoying. Like I go from a place where I just feel like I can really wear whatever I want, because like no one's really gonna care, especially in this space. No one's really gonna care in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But when I go home, I get that self-conscious thing again
Mm-hmm.
of like people are gonna judge me. People are gonna make like these just uh I guess just judgments about me and what I'm doing. So I'm not very comfortable. Like I'm still not comfortable like wearing feminine clothing in front of them,
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that I'm technically out to my immediate family. So I don't know. It's like I'm still working on that, and I'd love to get to a point where I really can just like be fine with that. But sometimes I go home and just like I get into like the mindset of it's time to be the boy in the
Oh
family.
yeah.
This time for the role I have to play, and then I end up like I stayed there for the entire summer. I ended up like growing out my facial hair, and like my hair got really long
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
like up here specifically. And I look back at pictures and I'm just uncomfortable. I actually
Yeah.
really don't like facial hair, and I'm gonna shave this off tomorrow for queer prom. But yeah, and that makes me think like, do I want to transition? Do I want to like get like laser hair removal? I just like, it's things I need to figure out later, but I think I would be more comfortable making those decisions without the fear that I have to go back home to
Hmm.
explain
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
And it's like, even though they know I'm non-binary, they know I like feminine things, so I don't know.
Well, you'll get there. You're a brave person. You'll get there.
Oh, thank you.
You're strong and smart, and you'll get there. Just take
Thank
those small
you.
steps.
Absolutely. Yeah. Working on it.
Well,
I did get pretty brave this year already, because like this semester, like one of the very first things that I did this year, and I think I asked about this on the Discord, was what can I do to like show everyone at the very forefront that I am in fact non-binary with before classes start. And it's like we had our big fall fest, like our big like big club fair basically
hmm.
that we do,
Hmm.
and I'm involved in one of the clubs on campus. And so I'd like, put on some mascara, put on some eyeliner, put on some eyeshadow, and like everyone was fine with it. People were complimenting me. They were just like, "Oh my gosh,
They're like,
wow, that's
"Damn, girl,
amazing."
you're looking
Yeah,
good."
I was like, "Thank you." I just threw this on so quick. And a lot of people too like alternate between, so because I am like gender fluid
Hmm. Hmm.
non-binary really, and this might change in the future. I still alternate between like my fem name and my mask
Hmm.
name, like my given name. A lot of people still just stick with one or the other. Like when I am in queer spaces, people still call me Joy, and then like when I'm in other spaces, people refer to me by my mask name, which is Gabriel, which is why my Instagram is Gabriel Joy,
Okay.
because I like having both of them up there. But it's weird. Like I have a weird relationship with it, where I feel like I chose that because I didn't want to like offend anyone
Hmm.
or something.
Hmm.
Like, and also any pronouns. That's the same kind of thing, where it's just like, he, him, she, her, they, them. You can't get it wrong if I don't tell you what it is,
Yeah.
or else I'm gonna be like really self-conscious about it. So like, yeah, but then at the same time, I'm like thinking about myself and what I actually prefer. And I think I prefer when people call me Joy. And I feel like I prefer when people use she, her pronouns.
Hmm.
So I just don't know yet. I have to make that like leap at some point. But I am currently like, I feel like I have to cater to everyone who follows me, because people know me from high school, people know me
Hmm.
from college, people know me in my family, and they refer to me my different names that way. So yeah, again, little baby steps as I'm moving along through this, but it is kind of cool when people mix up my name and remember that it's like, oh shoot, like, Joy. Or it's like, or they refer to me like on Instagram with she, her pronouns, or they, them pronouns. And I'm just like, wow, you remembered.
Hmm.
Like, that
Hmm.
is amazing. That's why like preferred pronouns are just like, so important. And like referring to people by the thing they want to be called is so important. It makes people feel good and respected, which is so, so important.
For
So
sure.
I'm
For
on a rant,
sure.
but yeah.
No,
Mm-hmm.
that's so true though, and for me, I picked Billy as my name because people already called me Billy. It's already a nickname for my legal name is William,
Yeah.
so I was always called Billy. So Billy was just a kind of a natural progression for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally get that. So you really can't like miss dead name me because as long as you call me Billy, it's either way. Uh,
Yeah, that's kind of fair. This is how you spell it, I guess.
yeah, which it does get
Yeah.
spelled wrong a lot, so that does kind of
Mhm.
bug me sometimes. But whatever. But yeah, I'll call you whatever you want me to call you. I'll refer to you however you want me to refer you. But as
Yeah.
of right now,
Joy is
I
cool.
know you as Joy, and I tend to say she, her for you.
Yeah, and I love that. So thank
Cool.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, dang, Joy, it's been going on for a while already, and I'm getting hungry.
It has. Oh my god, what time is it? I've
Probably.
wait, I 28 minutes to submit my
Oh
paper.
shoot.
Uh
well,
It's okay. I'm
yeah.
fine.
Before we go, do you have anything else you wanna say to anybody, or uh, would you like to sing us out even?
Oh, yes. Maybe I'll even say like just one of the things that I've just learned over the past like few years, and partly related to this paper that I'm writing as well, for a class that I really don't enjoy. But I'm just trying to get it done. Is just like the idea that like like it's kind of a little like negative to think about, but like anything could happen. Like this everything could be over in like a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Like I we're talking about the universe and how like the universe is like collapsing in on itself currently, like the walls are like
Mm-hmm.
shrinking. And I was just like, oh, that's fun. The universe could just disappear at any moment. So like don't hold back. Like I think it's so important to try to like live as like the thing that you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And like now, like don't try to wait kind of thing. Of course feel when you're comfortable coming out and stuff like that, but like just enjoy like, you know, being the awesome you want to be. um I am speaking as a 22-year-old but I think it's so important. That's what I'm trying to live by at any moment. It's just like not trying to hide my sparkle, because I know that it can go, it's so much better to let it out than just like keeping it all in.
Definitely, and you for
So
sure sparkle.
yeah.
You for sure sparkle.
Thank you.
Keep on sparkling, please.
Huh, sparkle, sparkle. I never thought about using that in like any of my like pen names or anything. I'm thinking about that now. Anyway, yeah. What should I sing? Oh my gosh, I don't
Well, while
know.
you think about what you're gonna sing, I'll do my little outro. So just think
Okay.
of something to sing. I just want to say thank you, Joy, for being on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been great talking to you and getting to know you more. I mean, I've known you for a couple of years already, just from the Discord, but it was really good just to have some one on one time with you. And thank you so
Yeah.
much. I really do appreciate it. And I'd love to have you on again, in the future, maybe to hear your update or get you on a DDT or a roundtable or I would just, I love to get you involved and get your representation, get you out there. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Again, if this podcast episode goes well, you're probably going to be listening to it, everyone. I was just so nervous about like, talking
Oh, it's
in
fantastic.
general. I felt like I had nothing to share, but Billy is very, very kind and says, I do have things to share.
Everyone has
Super
things to
sweet.
share. Everyone has things to share. Everyone tells me that their stories are boring, that their life's boring, and it's like it might be boring to you because you lived it, but other people haven't heard these stories. You know,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard
Mm-hmm.
your like. I learned a lot about you today, and it was very interesting, and it was great to hear it.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome.
I've chosen a song to sing from Steven Universe because we
Ooh,
were
let's
talking
hear it.
about that
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, let's hear it.
So, oh wait, shit. Let me get the lyrics. I'm gonna forget.
Uh-oh.
Da, 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 da. It's in the credits of every episode, so it just made me
Okay.
think like, okay, it's we're about to end. Um, Here we go. If I could begin to do something that goes right by you, I would do about anything. I would even learn how to love. When I see the way you look, shaken by how long it took, I could do about anything. I could even learn how to love like you.
I love it. I love it.
Credits Rebecca Sugar,
That's
not
good.
my song.
That's good. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for singing and
Thank you,
sharing.
Billy.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Send me the recording. I'll listen to it and probably cringe, and
Oh
it'll
no,
probably be okay. Honestly, I like this episode.
you're good. You're good. It's great. I don't want to leave the
uh,
studio. I want to just end the call. How do I end the call? Oh, if you enjoyed today's episode of the Cross YAAS podcast and would like to share your story, reach out to Giselle or myself on the Cross YAAS podcast website, Instagram, or Discord. I'd love to hear your story. Your story deserves to be heard. Just like I've been saying in this episode and many of the other more recent episodes, I really feel like representation matters so much. Um, I know just from speaking with a lot of people on here that even for myself, that hearing these stories have helped them out, either figure themselves out or get to a better place in their understanding of themselves. Um, so please, if you'd like to share your story, or you want to reach out to me, or talk to any of the other previous guests or some of the listeners, you can find us on the Cross YAAS Confidential Discord, which can be found on the CrossYAASPodcast.com website. Um, and also, please share this podcast with your friends. Because if you enjoyed it, or this episode's helped you out, more than likely your friends will probably enjoy it, and it might help them out too. But I would really love to send my biggest thanks to Joy for taking the time to talk with me and share her story, sing to me a couple times. That was really really sweet of her. I love having the new intro song with her in it. If she doesn't mind, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Um, oh, she told me I could, but anyway, I also really appreciated that she sung us out. That was really cool. Anyway, bye. I'm not here to diagnose or treat anything. I'm just here to share my story, have others come on the podcast to share their story, and to help you learn about the world of cross dressing, sexuality, and gender.